Even if you have a great reading routine at home, over time things can get stale. I can even think just this past summer where every day you kind of get into a routine and things get bored, and the books that were exciting earlier in the year don't seem as exciting now. And so here are some ideas for things you can do to kind of spice up the reading routine at home once you've got a good routine established. One thing that can be kind of fun is to use a device like an iPad to record reading. So I've had my kids read to the device and then listen to themselves read. That's kind of a fun thing to do. One thing we've also done, and this is true almost every summer, or actually Christmas season, whatever, there's almost always a children's book that's made into a movie. And so together reading through a book and then going to the movie or watching the movie. You don't have to necessarily go to a new movie. It could be, reading Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and watching the two Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movies and see how they compare or whatever. Another thing you could consider doing to kind of liven up reading time together is to switch your setting. For us, we always end up on the couch in our living room, and it works most of the time. But man, oh man, it's way more fun to read in a fort or in the hammock, or maybe with pillows on the ground, or in mom and dad's bed. I know for our girls that's a treat. And so just switching the setting might be a good way to kind of liven things up. I think one way to liven up reading too, and I realize this takes a certain amount of energy and creativity, which sometimes we don't have when we're reading to our kids, but is to just live it up a little bit while you're reading. To be dramatic, to use ridiculous, silly voices. Your kids won't judge you for being too goofy. Well, maybe, but they'll deal with it. But they will see that you're engaged and all in, and that they should be all in too. You'll find you start using silly voices and getting into it a little bit more, your kids will respond in turn, and so that's a fun way to do it. And maybe you're just you're reading the text while your kids act out the stories. That's another option as well. One thing that's been kind of fun too is in our neighborhood, there's been a bunch of little free libraries that have been popping up, and going in there and trying to find a book that you maybe wouldn't necessarily have chosen, but finding something, what treasure is inside one of those boxes, and even adding some of our old books to those boxes. That's been kind of a fun way to liven up some of our reading at home. And if your kids are inclined to or really like to color or draw or write, having them create their own illustrations for a story that was read, or write a different ending, or add in a new character. There is a local author, Zenz, who has this really cool blog where he and his children have read a text, and then they, as a group, all maybe made artwork in the same theme, or made a video having to do with the book. Some really fun ways to engage. Now, it's a little over the top, I'm going to admit. But even so, I think just the spirit of how can we make this reading come to life? How can we spice things up a little bit? As always, teachers, we do the same thing. How can we take something, this content here, and make it something that the kids really enjoy or come to? And it takes work, but that work is often so fruitful, and in that's where those memories are created. And so I encourage you to use some of these things. Maybe record their reading, get a video of it. Really, really cool to see later as they're growing in their reading, to look back, but whatever. Maybe watching movies that go along with books. Switching the setting of where you're reading. Being dramatic, having fun acting out the stories. Maybe finding that little free library in your neighborhood. And also having your kids be engaged in writing their own parts of the story, or creating a graphic novel based on the story, or writing a story based on what you just read. Whatever it is, however we can get these kids to engage with the text in an enjoyable way will be a benefit to them as readers. And so hopefully these are some ideas that you can use to liven up your reading this year.